Hello, and thank you for viewing our video. This video essentially is focused on external audit training for firm of chartered accountants, CPAs. We have put this together as part of our support for the accounting profession, especially those of us that practice as chartered of accountants. Over years, in the last 10 years, we've had opportunity to train accounting firm auditors on auditing, and we've decided to put series of videos out from some of our previous content that you've used in our training. So if you're an accountant or a practicing auditor and you like to receive this content, you can just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just click on subscribe so that you can get update from time to time on such content once they are released. Also, if you like to know more, you can attend one of our upcoming external audit trainings for auditors. We run series of audit trainings. We run basic audit training, intermediate, and advanced. So you can just click on the bio below to subscribe, or you send us an email. Okay, my name is Abiola Fajimi, and I'm the managing partner for PML Advisory. I also chair the Audit Academy courses. I serve as chair in that academy with support from our other professional colleagues. So today I want to take us through introduction and pre-engagement activities. This is the part 1 of the video. So you can also look for the other part. So as an auditor, our work is driven largely by standard, and our work as auditor is very methodical. Auditors work based on standard, and you need to follow similar process from time to time. And that's why if you work across all the major accounting firms, you find out that things that are done are pretty similar. The tool might look different, the approach might be slightly different, but essentially the work remains the same. So as auditor, we are continuing to be under a very strict regulations, and for us in Nigeria, there has been a lot of changes in the audit regulation landscape. Today, we now have Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, who has the responsibility to register all auditors. All auditors are expected to register with FRC in Nigeria, and also as part of their regulatory requirement, they are to review firm of chartered accountant auditors annually or every 3 years, depending on the kind of portfolio you have. And also we are registered with professional bodies, ICANN, ANAN. In fact, that's really the basis for us to even practice as accountants in the first instance. And what you will see or have observed is that there have been a lot of changes from these regulatory bodies. They are now very strict. The requirements for us to continue to be able to practice as auditor has increased, and from time to time they are demanding for quality. So a lot of things is happening in the audit space in Nigeria. And so just to also give us background, what you have now is a standard audit methodology, which is actually the methodology we have in our audit software. We use an audit software called AuditMate, which is a product of ITMate in South Africa. That ensures that whatever audit we carry out is standard from engagement to engagement, and it contains the essential things required by international standard on auditing for external auditors. So if you have that kind of software, you are sure that you always deliver your work up to required standard. So in a few minutes, I will take us through pre-engagement activities. When we talk about pre-engagement activities, we are talking about the kind of activities that auditors need to carry out before they move into the field, before the audit commences fully. There are certain kind of things you must carry out as auditor before you commence your audit fully. And we'll talk about some of them in this presentation. One, client information documentation. As auditor, the first thing you need to do is to document information about this your new client. And things that will document include registered name of the entity. We must know the name of the entity we're about to audit. We must know the registration date. When was this entity registered? We must know the entity registration number, so that in case you need to do a legal search on the entity, you have all the information required. And you need to know the actual nature of business of this entity. You don't want to audit a client that you don't even know the business they do. You don't want to take up a client that is involved in illegal activities. So you need to know the nature of the business that your client carries out. We must know the industry, know the physical business address. If it doesn't have physical business address, we must know at least somewhere to contact the stakeholders or the directors of the business. We must know the name of the shareholders and directors, then the name of the key personnel, and possibly have idea of the turnover of the business. So this basic information must be gathered before we commence an audit engagement about our clients. The next thing we need to do is also to do what we call the client acceptance or continuance. As auditor, we need to determine whether we want to accept a new client or we want to continue with an existing client. Why is this important? As auditor, we do not take up all audit engagements. We take up audit engagement that meets certain specific requirement that has been set by us as a firm. If the client does not meet it, we do not take up such engagement. And for continuance, every year we also need to determine whether you want to continue to audit an existing client, because you might not just want to continue because of certain things you've discovered during the audit, maybe in previous year, or because of certain structural changes in the business. So we are expected to determine whether you want to accept a new engagement or we want to continue with an existing client. All of this we need to document. When thinking about whether to accept or continue an existing engagement, things that needs to come to our mind are things like, do we have the competence to perform the engagement? Do we have the capacity, the time and resources to do it? You don't want to take up an engagement that you don't have capacity or resources to do. And are you sure you can comply with all the ethical requirements? And have you considered the integrity of the client owners, directors, and management? When we complete this and we're satisfied, then we can conclude that it is appropriate to take up that engagement. And for change of auditors, as part of what we must also consider is what was the basis for the change of the auditor, the previous auditor? Why did they change him? Is it that there were some ethical issues? Is it that there were things that they wanted to do, it was not in support? All of this we must think about. And whether there was an explicit dispute over the financial statement and expected audit outcome, we need to think about that when determining whether to accept an engagement or not. Part of what we should also do before we move ahead for the new engagement is to also write the previous auditor. Let's obtain the necessary professional clearance from the previous auditor. Even while it is not mandatory, but it's obligatory, it is ethical that you obtain such clearance. We need to write the previous auditor to confirm that is not aware of anything why we should not take up such engagement. And the previous auditor should also be magnanimous to reply. I've observed some bad practices within the accounting practice, even here in Nigeria. A lot of firms don't respond to such letters. That is not good and it's not right. We're meant to respond to the letter so that the new auditor or the successor auditor can go ahead with his work. We should please try to always respond. The next thing we need to do is to do the engagement letter. We need to document the terms of this audit engagement. This is very important for us as auditor. I've had friends that have complained that it was at the end of an audit engagement that the client was requesting for certain things, and I asked, did you document the engagement from the word go? And he said no. Don't make the mistake of rushing into an engagement without documenting the terms of such engagement. We must clearly document the terms and ensure that the client signs off. I know that there are some clients that are also very funny and they are in practices of not signing off on the engagement letter. If you find yourself auditing such a client, at a minimum, do an email articulating the terms of the engagement and send it to the client. So don't go ahead with an audit engagement without a clearly documented terms of the engagement. The next thing we must do before we start an audit is to also send the audit requirements. Your audit requirement is a list of information that you need to carry out your work as an auditor. Before you commence the audit, you need to send it to the client so that the client can prepare for you ahead of that engagement. That will help you in saving considerable time. I've seen people not sending the information requirement on time, and then they get onto the feed and find out that they need to spend considerable time waiting for the client to be ready. You can save yourself a lot of time by sending it to them ahead. Not only send, you also even check for their readiness. So I will check and ensure that you have 70% of the information before I move to feed, so my team can be efficient and focused. They get the work done quickly and on time. So that is very important. Immediately you've done these things, you are ready to start the engagement fully. So those are the kind of things we need to do for pre-engagement activity. So if you need more information, or you still like to continue to learn more about this auditing, you can look for our next video, which is part 2 of this video, or can reach out directly to us at PML Professional Services. Our phone number is displayed, and our email is also displayed on the screen. Our team is a phone call away to help you. And if you are considering sending your team member for audit training, external audit training, as part of your staff development program, you can also reach out to us. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next presentation, in the part 2. Thank you.